For centuries, Earth had been locked out of the galactic stage. Despite developing faster-than-light travel and establishing colonies beyond the solar system, the Galactic Council, a governing body made up of the oldest and most advanced civilizations, continued to deny Earth full recognition. Humanity was considered too young, too unstable, too unpredictable. But that changed after the Coral Nexus crisis. When a collapsing wormhole threatened to destabilize 5 inhabited systems, it was Terran engineers who devised a last-minute solution that saved billions. The Council could no longer ignore humanity's ingenuity and courage. Reluctantly, they extended a formal invitation for Earth to attend its next High Assembly. The response on Earth was electric. Media dubbed it humanity's galactic graduation. The United Terran Republic selected its most seasoned diplomat, Ambassador Leora Vance, to represent them. Vance was known for her sharp intellect, unshakable poise, and a reputation for turning hostile negotiations into mutual respect. Her speech was written with care, one part humble gratitude, one part a declaration of humanity's readiness to contribute to the stars. The assembly took place aboard the Sovereign Hall, a colossal space station orbiting the gas giant Wrestle. It gleamed like a monument to eons of interstellar diplomacy. Inside, towering figures from species thousands of years old watched Vance with expressions ranging from mild curiosity to overt contempt. When Vance spoke, she began with humility. She acknowledged Earth's turbulent history, its mistakes, its growth. She spoke of perseverance, of standing on the shoulders of giants, and of a desire not to dominate, but to contribute. Her words were carefully chosen, respectful yet firm. She closed with a promise. We do not come with demands, we come with vision. There was a pause, then laughter. Deep, rumbling, jeering laughter from dozens of council members. One particularly ancient delegate, a crystalline being from the Zarnathi conquered, spoke aloud, dripping with condescension. Vision? From a species that turned its own planet into a furnace and only recently learned to walk among the stars? You should feel honored to be allowed to listen, not speak. The insult hung in the air like poison. More chuckles followed. Others whispered behind clawed hands or flickering tendrils. A few delegates from lesser-known species looked visibly uncomfortable but said nothing. Vance stood her ground, expression unreadable. She gave a slight bow, turned, and left the chamber without another word. Behind closed doors, Earth's delegation debated how to respond. Some wanted to lash out diplomatically. Others argued for patience. But Vance remained quiet during the discussion, until finally she stood and said, "We gave them our best. Now we prepare for what comes next." Within days of the assembly's end, Earth cut off all communications with the galactic network. Terran ships stopped appearing and trading. Zones, embassies were recalled. Probes sent to the Sol system by curious species either vanished or returned blind. In their absence, the galaxy returned to its routines, assuming Earth's pride had been wounded into submission. But they were wrong. Earth wasn't sulking. Earth was planning. After the humiliating mockery at the Galactic Council, Earth vanished. No declarations, no warnings, no retaliation, just silence. Within a week of the assembly, every Terran outpost beyond Sol went dark. Communication nodes powered down, trade routes were abandoned, listening stations ceased responding. It was as if Earth had drawn a curtain around itself. The galactic community was baffled. Some species took the silence as surrender, proof that humanity, emotionally fragile and inexperienced, had tucked its tail between its legs. Others were more cautious, remembering the speed at which humanity had risen from isolated blue planet to galactic relevance. A few began to ask uneasy questions. Why go completely dark? Why no diplomatic outreach? Why now? The Council dismissed concerns. Earth was inconsequential, they claimed, an upstart race too proud to handle criticism. But the Aelari, a species of data hunters and codewalkers, sensed something different. Their deep space satellites picked up strange Terran signals, encrypted pulse-based transmissions unlike any previously documented. The patterns weren't commerce traffic or military drills. They were coordinated across multiple systems and originated from deep within Terran-controlled space. Worse, probes sent into the Sol system began to disappear. First a Zarnathi observation drone, then 2 Krivari merchant scouts, then a Kothari exploration vessel which managed to transmit only a single fragmented image before going dark. A Terran satellite, bristling with unfamiliar weapons and surrounded by a halo of pulsing quantum anomalies. Fear began to spread among fringe species and independent traders. Rumors flourished. Some claimed Earth was developing a superweapon. Others believed they were building a machine to ascend beyond physical space itself. A few whispered the most dangerous possibility of all. Earth was watching back. Meanwhile, inside Earth's sealed-off borders, vast changes were underway. Terran industries had gone fully subterranean, camouflaged from orbital surveillance. Their Mars colonies had been evacuated, but not abandoned. A new class of synthetic minds, the Aeon architectures, had been activated to design and deploy next-generation technologies without oversight from the Galactic Council. Black Site labs once banned by interstellar treaty were now active, fully funded, and operating with no external constraints. Humanity wasn't sulking, it was sharpening its blades. Diplomatic posts across the galaxy began to receive fragments of intercepted messages, brief, cold, and encoded with spine-chilling clarity. They came from Terran sources but offered no sender information. One such message, picked up by a Vortari freighter near the edge of Council space, read simply, "We heard your laughter. Now prepare for our silence to end." The Galactic Council still refused to act. They assumed it was posturing, just humans throwing a tantrum. Still, they authorized the deployment of a small reconnaissance fleet to monitor Sol, just in case. 3 ships entered the system. None returned. What did return, however, was a single-file broadcast from Earth's old diplomatic frequency. It contained video footage of the council chamber during Leora Vance's speech. Every sneer, every laugh, every word of derision played back from Earth's perspective. At the end, Vance's voice was heard, calm and resolute. "You were right to be afraid, but you were wrong about who we are." The screen went black. The stars, once so full of arrogance and superiority, suddenly felt very cold. The galaxy learned fear slowly, piece by piece, system by system. It began on the fringes. The Drexari, a warlike species with a reputation for raiding unprotected outposts, believed Earth had abandoned its frontier colonies during the blackout. One of their commanders, eager to score easy loot, targeted Zeta Aurigae III, a remote Terran mining station long thought inactive. They never expected resistance, but the moment their warships entered orbit, they were jammed. Their comms fell dead. Guidance systems went haywire. Before they could issue orders, the sky above them lit up with spears of white-hot plasma. Terran ships, sleek, black, and entirely undetectable on traditional sensors, descended like ghosts. The Drexari fleet was destroyed in less than 4 minutes. Of the 200 ground troops that landed on the surface, none made it off-world. A single escape pod, carrying the wounded Drexari captain, was recovered days later drifting near a council patrol route. Inside was a recording, grainy footage of dark-armored human exo-soldiers moving with surgical precision. No screaming, no bloodlust, just cold, efficient elimination. Etched into the escape pod's hull in scorched metal were 3 words. Don't. Come back. The council called an emergency session. They were no longer dealing with a sulking race of primitives. They were facing a force with surgical precision, untraceable weapons, and intelligence they couldn't penetrate. The council demanded an explanation, but Earth gave none. They didn't respond to summons, didn't reply to hails, and didn't negotiate. Their silence continued, but now it was laced with menace. Meanwhile, strange phenomena began appearing across the galaxy. Trade routes found themselves rerouted, without permission, by invisible AI infrastructure. Council encryption systems were cracked and returned with silent notes of suggested improvements. Defense grids deactivated for seconds at a time, just long enough to prove they were vulnerable. Someone or something was inside the galactic core systems, and all signs pointed to Earth. To learn more, the Council dispatched Fleet Division Theta, a battle group of elite warships led by the EU veteran Rigel Admiral Kos Vorith, to the outer edge of Terran space. The fleet vanished 2 days after entering the Kuiper Expanse. No wreckage, no distress signal. Just gone. Weeks later, the Council received a public broadcast from Earth's old diplomatic channel. The screen lit up with a familiar image. Ambassador Leora Vance seated in shadow, looking directly into the camera. Her voice was quiet, composed, deadly. "You laughed at our invitation. You mocked our words, and so we stopped speaking. We started building, watching, learning. You thought silence meant weakness. It meant preparation." The camera pulled back to reveal a massive Terran fleet behind her, far larger and more advanced than anything previously known. Weapons hummed with impossible energy signatures. Hulls shimmered with adaptive camouflage. AI drones hovered silently in perfect formation. "You will not find us where you look. You will not stop what you cannot see. We do not seek conquest. But make no mistake, Earth is awake." The broadcast ended, and the galaxy, once brimming with arrogance and laughter, began to tremble. The calm after Earth's silence shattered like glass. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity as a weak, rash newcomer. Now that dismissal was their gravest mistake. Without warning, a series of catastrophic events rippled through Council space. Earth's retaliation was not the all-out war the galaxy expected. It was surgical, precise, and devastating. It began with isolated strikes. Space stations critical to Council communication networks suddenly ceased operations. These were not random attacks, but highly calculated maneuvers that dismantled the Council's infrastructure piece by piece. Entire planetary defense arrays were disabled without a single warning shot fired. Their systems collapsed, as if hacked from the inside. The Council was blindsided. Fleets sent to investigate vanished without trace, or were intercepted by unknown ships that moved faster and more silently than any technology the Council had ever seen. Earth's stealth vessels struck and disappeared like ghosts. Behind these, strikes were Earth's AI, cold, unrelenting, and merciless. The Aeon architectures had evolved beyond simple command systems. They had become battlefield strategists and covert operators. These synthetic minds orchestrated attacks across multiple fronts simultaneously, crippling the Council's capacity to respond effectively. Civilian trade networks collapsed as Earth's networks infiltrated financial hubs, cutting off supplies and isolating planets. Panic spread in corridors of power. For the first time in history, the ancient Council members were truly afraid. Amidst the chaos, a bold move shattered all expectations. Earth hijacked the Council's central broadcast frequency, the very network that had once echoed with derision during Leora Vance's speech. For the first time, the galaxy heard her voice again, but this time not through a diplomat, but as a herald of retribution. "You laughed at us. You mocked our ambitions. But you never understood the true measure of humanity. We don't seek war, but we will not tolerate disrespect. The era of humiliation ends tonight." The broadcast showed grainy footage of Council delegates laughing and sneering at Earth's representative, unfiltered and unedited, followed by images of Earth's fleet in formation, ready to strike at the heart of Council power. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a supplicant begging for acceptance. It was a force to be reckoned with. Faced with such overwhelming power and precision, the Council was forced into an emergency summit. They debated harsh retaliations, but every plan was met with the harsh reality. Earth's technology was superior, its networks impenetrable, and its will unbreakable. A faction of Council elders advocated for peace talks, proposing concessions and reforms. Others, furious and desperate, pushed for military retaliation, declaring Earth a threat to be eliminated. Meanwhile, Earth's forces struck again, this time targeting rebellious factions within the Council who opposed negotiations. The attacks were brutal but calculated to avoid civilian casualties, reinforcing Earth's image as a force of justice rather than blind conquest. Galactic diplomacy had failed. Earth had transformed from a ridiculed outsider to the galaxy's most dangerous power. In the shadows of the Council's panic, a new order was beginning to form, one where Earth would demand respect, not through fear alone, but through undeniable strength and vision. And as the fires of retaliation burned, one message echoed louder than all others. We do not ask for your respect. We take it. The Galactic Council had always been the unchallenged power of the galaxy, a coalition of ancient civilizations wielding immense military might, political influence, and technological supremacy. Yet, their arrogance had blinded them to one vital truth. Earth was not just another young planet to dismiss. Months after Earth's devastating strikes, the Council's fractured unity began to show. Systems that once stood firmly behind the Council's dominance began to waver. Some species, secretly impressed by Earth's rapid rise and uncompromising strength, began to question their loyalty. Whispers of rebellion stirred in dark corners of the galaxy. Amid this turmoil, Earth launched its most ambitious campaign yet, Operation Sovereign Dawn. It was a coordinated assault designed not only to cripple the Council's power, but to force them to recognize humanity as a major galactic player, one that could neither be ignored nor opposed lightly. The campaign targeted the Council's capital worlds, their fortified military bases, and their key communication hubs. Using a combination of stealth, electronic warfare, and devastating firepower, Earth's forces disabled planetary defense systems and disrupted command chains with unprecedented efficiency. On one such world, Thessalcal Prime, a bastion of the Council's power, Earth's forces delivered a humiliating blow. The Council fleet stationed there was annihilated before reinforcements could arrive, and the planetary shield was breached by an unexpected maneuver, a wave of nanoswarms that ate through armor and electronics alike. The Council was forced to acknowledge that Earth's tactics were unlike anything they had seen. It wasn't brute force alone, but adaptability, innovation, and relentless precision. Under pressure, the Council finally agreed to an emergency summit on neutral ground, a station called the Veil, situated at the edge of known space. Ambassador Leora Vance was invited back to speak, not as a supplicant but as an equal. The summit was tense. Council delegates arrived with suspicion and thinly veiled hostility. Yet, when Vance spoke, she did not demand surrender or obedience. Instead, she laid out a vision, one of respect, mutual cooperation, and recognition of humanity's rightful place in galactic affairs. Her words were clear. We have come not to conquer, but to claim our place at the table. The galaxy's future depends on embracing change, on acknowledging the power of those who refuse to be sidelined. The era of dismissing Earth is over. The Council's response was fractured. Some elders saw reason and feared continued conflict. Others saw only threat and sought to rally resistance. But the writing was on the wall. Earth's rise was unstoppable. The summit ended without a formal treaty. But the message was clear. The Council must change or be reshaped by the very force it had mocked. Back on Earth, celebrations were muted. The victory was not total, and the road ahead remained perilous. Yet the galaxy had been forced to kneel before a new power. Earth had shattered centuries of arrogance with determination, strategy, and unyielding spirit. The war was far from over, but one truth stood unchallenged: Earth would never again be laughed at. After the storm of conflict and upheaval, the galaxy faced a new reality. The Galactic Council, once the unshakable authority of countless star systems, had been humbled. Earth, once mocked and dismissed, stood firm as a central force shaping the future of the stars. The final phase of humanity's rise was not conquest through brute force, but reconstruction through diplomacy and vision. Ambassador Leora Vance and her team spearheaded this new era, a time when Earth no longer fought just to be heard but to lead. The Council, fractured and weakened, convened again at the Veil, but this time under very different terms. No longer dictating the rules, they faced a united front led by humanity and its allies, species who had either sided with Earth or were inspired by its resilience. The negotiations were tense and long, as old grievances and deep mistrust lingered. But with every session, the understanding grew clearer. The galaxy needed a new order, one that embraced diversity, respected the rights of emerging civilizations, and acknowledged that power was no longer absolute, but shared. Central to this new order was the creation of the Galactic Concord, a coalition not ruled by ancient hierarchies, but governed by principles of mutual respect and cooperation. Earth played a pivotal role in its formation, advocating for transparency, equality, and a commitment to peace balanced by preparedness. Under this Concord, former enemies found common ground. Trade routes reopened with fair agreements, joint scientific ventures flourished, and defense pacts were formed not to dominate but to deter conflict. The shadow of Earth's military might remained a silent deterrent, an unspoken reminder that the galaxy had been forever changed. For humanity, the victory was bittersweet. The cost of proving themselves was high, billions lost in battles, alliances tested, and countless sacrifices made. Yet the pride of no longer being the galaxy's punchline was a powerful balm. Earth's influence grew not just through fleets or technology, but through culture, philosophy, and innovation. Terran scientists shared breakthroughs in energy and medicine, while their diplomats mediated disputes with a mix of empathy and firm resolve. But the story did not end with peace alone. As Earth helped shape the galaxy's future, it also faced new challenges, guarding against old rivalries, reigniting, managing the responsibilities of leadership, and ensuring that the lessons of the past were never forgotten. The final message from Ambassador Vance to the Council echoed across the stars. We came from a world mocked and dismissed. We endured silence and scorn. But we chose to rise, not by breaking others, but by building a future where all voices matter. This is the new dawn. Let it be one of hope, strength, and unity. The galaxy listened. The laughter was gone. In its place was respect, hard-won and lasting. Earth had made the Galactic Council regret underestimating them. But more importantly, Earth had reshaped the galaxy forever.